guarantee for the 3,000 jobs in
Brampton. I think you're falling into the trap of trying to find a problem where there's none.
Active dollars.
Well, MP Dencho, I don't know whether you want this to be a monologue or you want me to appear. Because
the question I'm asking you is very clear.
I don't need to be here.
So I'll admit, yesterday afternoon, your boy's a little hopped up on Mountain Dew. And after rewatching the episode, I was like, oh, shoot, my bad. I was fired up. I'll be honest. I was having a good time. I was lighthearted. Life was good. I was having a good time. And I had some oversight. And the oversight was I usually take a step back. I'm like, all right. And then I frame the issue and I show you what's going on behind the scenes. And I didn't do that yesterday with a David Eby, Daniel Smith, Mark Carney situation that we are currently witnessing. It was just hilarious seeing how emotional David Eby was getting. And I just kind of left it there. And that's on me. I really needed to frame that up better and show you what to expect and not to put all your eggs in the basket of this pipeline. Like, this pipeline is it's not going to happen, at least the way it's currently being presented. And Mark Carney knows that, and Mark Carney's doing those things, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today as well. You know what I've been discussing about a lot of these handful of Liberal caucus members who are looking to kind of quietly disperse? Yes, we are getting names of those people now, and it's getting very interesting behind the scenes, especially as Mark Carney plans a secret 30-minute cabinet meeting to discuss all the pipeline issues with Daniel Smith and David Eby with that cabinet today. And we learned that Melanie Joly, there's a reason she's going to Paris, and we're going to be discussing all of that. Welcome to the Elevate Podcast. I'm your host, Josh. Getting value from today's episode, take the time to like, share, and subscribe. It helps us to grow. It helps us to get to new audiences. And it helps people see that there is something different than what the mainstream media has to offer. And now let's get our first story, shall we? So as I said, when we look at the pipeline issue, obviously, Daniel Smith and Alberta really want this to happen. Well, if I'm being quite frank, Canada wants this to happen. However, we are dealing with not very much a Team Canada approach, are we? David Eby saying, no, please, no, we don't want it. We don't want it. Why don't you want it? It just makes me look bad. Well, do you have another reason? Well, they're tax-paying fund. No, can you ever give me a real reason why you don't want this? No, it's ideology. It's ideology. It's ideology. So, as I said, Mark Carney had meetings with Daniel Smith and Scott Moe about this pipeline, and David Eby had a meltdown. And that is really reminiscent of someone who is not in control. When you take a step back and look at what's happening, there's no way Mark Carney is going to allow this pipeline to go through. First off, it goes against his own financial interests. Second, he's able to pawn it off on someone else to blame someone else for it, and that's what he's going to do with David Eby or the First Nation tribes. That's essentially where this is all going. So, if I'm David Eby, I know that political game is being played, and I wouldn't be getting so emotional over it. However, there's two reasons why he is getting emotional over it. One is he knows there's an outside chance that he will get railroaded on this, which, again, it's an outside chance. I don't see it happening. I'll be shocked if it does. Or number two, as I said yesterday, he's a man desperate, clinging on to his job, and he wants to look relevant some way, shape, or form. And that's why he's melting down in the media. So yesterday, as we said, Daniel Smith had a meeting, MOU, with Mr. Mark Carney. And, well, people are like, whoa, are we actually going to see something happen here? It's interesting. It's symbolic, isn't it? But Mark Carney made sure to let everyone know this is likely not happening in the House of Commons yesterday.
The memorandum of understanding that we're negotiating with Alberta creates necessary conditions, but not sufficient conditions, because we believe in cooperative federalism. We believe the government of British Columbia has to agree. We believe that First Nations right holders in this country have to agree and support. All stakeholders have to back. That's one Canada.
Oh, man. What a statement. A whole lot of nothing, isn't it? And this is where it gets very interesting, because Mark Carney knows exactly what he's doing. And this is a man who continues to divide Canadians. This is really all he does. This is what he will be doing moving forward. What happened? Well, he said one thing to David Eby, went, talked to Daniel Smith, Scott Moe, made them feel a certain way, that things are going in a specific direction. Then he sees David Eby melting down in the media over the fact that he didn't include them in these conversations with Daniel Smith in Alberta and Saskatchewan. And he's like, well, what's going on? He's freaking out. And Mark Carney's like, don't worry, Alberta, we got you. Daniel Smith, we got you. Then he goes in the House of Commons saying, don't worry, nothing's going to happen unless BC says so. And this is exactly what he did. He said one thing to BC, said another to Alberta, said another to Saskatchewan, and then backed out and says, you guys can fight it out now. This is clearly an absence of leadership. I reiterated this on my live stream last night, this is all he's done since he's been in power, is he's just passed the buck to somebody else so he can go focus on his Brookfield investments, signing deals that are going to enrich him, using Canada as a guise to get these deals done. However, that's exactly what is currently happening at this present time. So does he care about bringing unity across Canada? No, his actions show he just wants to create rifts between these provinces and between these premiers. And well, Lisa Raitt said it best yesterday could an election come down to pipelines? It would be very interesting if that were to happen. David Eby's clinging onto power for dear life at this point in time. He's trying to cling onto relevance. And even when a big bomb dropped like it did yesterday, where this was reported by the Canadian press, that lawsuit seeks damages against BC federal government over Cowichan title ruling. A proposed class action lawsuit filed in BC Supreme Court says the provincial and federal governments had long-standing knowledge that unresolved Indigenous land claims threatened the security of property ownership in Canada. The lawsuit filed this week in New Westminster, BC, alleges the recent decision by the court recognizing the Cowichan tribe's title over a swath of property in Richmond, BC has caused economic and psychological harm to members of the proposed class. One of the plaintiffs, Jasjeet Grul, says in the lawsuit that he owns property in BC and claims title to the land is now uncertain because all properties in BC are now subject to claims of pre-existing Aboriginal title. So stuff like this is dropping by the day. David Eby's in tough right now. So he's trying to make himself look relevant on this pipeline issue. And he's not going to allow it to go through it again to save face for, well, all the crap that he's currently dealing with and his ideology is brought to his front doorstep. So this is where, again, we're going to see more fighting between Danielle Smith and David Eby until an election takes place in either province and a premier switched out. That's what we're going to see continue moving forward. And if we move on, this is happening this afternoon, which is fascinating. Carney briefs cabinet on Alberta energy deal to be unveiled Thursday. Prime Minister Mark Carney briefed his cabinet Tuesday on a broad framework for an energy deal with Alberta that could reset relations and usher in a new era of harmony on resource development. Mr. Carney's cabinet and caucus is made up of Justin Trudeau-era members who are environmentalists and had largely been opposed to a proposed new heavy oil pipeline to the Pacific Northwest coast, championed by Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. The agreement to be unveiled Thursday in Calgary by the Prime Minister and Ms. Smith will open the door to a bitumen oil pipeline, providing certain conditions are met, government and private sector sources say. Cabinet ministers brushed off questions about whether the deal could test the unity of caucus, some of whom were directly involved in crafting the same environmental measures that may now be waived for Alberta. There is a 3 p.m. cabinet meeting happening today, 30-minute long. Fairly unusual to a degree. These types of meetings take place when they are going to kind of have to solidify some proposal they're going to have to put through, and that's what's happening today. But as this article suggests, Carney's trying to drag people on board who are strong environmentalists, who don't agree with this. And brings me back to the situation where we've been hearing rumblings in caucus that people are just going to start leaving. And this is the list we know so far. We have Bill Blair, Mark Miller, Jonathan Wilkinson, Melanie Joly, Nate Erskine-Smith, Stephen Guilbeault, Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould are all rumored to be either being ushered into other parts of the government, whether it be an ambassadorship to another part of the country or part of the world, or they are just going to quietly leave and go involve themselves in politics someplace else. We likely could see maybe potentially two by-elections out of this, people just outright leaving, vacating their MP seat. And this is the problem I have with this, is Robert Fife and the Globe and Mail continue to hold water for the Liberals. You have all this kind of inward strife that's happening in the Liberal Party where people are not happy with Carney placating as much as he has at this point to Danielle Smith and Alberta. We know on this side, the people who want an oil pipeline know that he's never going to allow it to happen. He's going to allow Mr. Eby to veto it. And the Liberal caucus is mad that he's even allowed it to get that far. They're upset that he's even gone there. There's like, this should have been shut down from the immediate get-go. This conversation shouldn't even be happening at the federal level. And now you're just going to allow a province to make a decision on it? We don't like that. That's likely with the conversations that are happening behind closed doors right now. And you remember how crazy the media was over the floor crossing and how there's such turmoil in the Conservative caucus. Yet this is your governing party, and you're just softballing it, smoothing it over, making sure no one really looks into it. Robert Fife wants to be taken seriously as the Ottawa bureau chief. Well, you're nothing more than just a liberal shill. Guess what? This is going to really upset them. Robert Fife, you're no better than me. You're me. The people that guys like me, you don't like, that you think are just hyper partisan. Yeah, you're like me, but you're for the Liberal Party. Sorry. The difference is between you and I at least admit my bias, and you are scared to admit it because, well, you want to have a guise that you are objective when you're not. You go hard on the Conservatives when it's convenient, and then when the Liberals are in turmoil in their caucus, people are possibly going to be leaving left, right, and center. 8 of them, to be exact. Oh, it's just a part of life. This is how it's going to go. Okay, Reg was right on that one, folks. They are going to softball this. There will be 1 or 2, I still believe there will be 1 or 2 MPs that will kind of shock the system a bit. But for the most part, they're going to find some nice explanations for all these individuals. One of which being Melanie Joly specifically. That was reported yesterday about her going to Paris, right? Well, we found out why that conversation started getting kicked up a lot more. And well, it's because this story broke from the Blacklock's reporter. The minister never read the contract. Minister Joly never read the contract. So let's be fair, let's frame this up properly, all right? So Minister Joly took over this file, at least with the one that Stellantis is covered under May this year, May 2025. The person who signed this deal was François-Philippe Champagne, who oversaw this back in 2023. I believe this deal came into be, 2022, somewhere in there, this deal came to be. François-Philippe Champagne was one who was overseeing it. And when you overtake a portfolio, May 2025, you've got time to read over everything some of the more significant issues that are happening in this particular portfolio. In this case, well, Minister Joly went into committee acting as if she was the expert on the issue, knew what was going on. So when Doncho came at her asking for the jobs guarantee, she's like, well, don't worry, it'll all come out. Remember this?
So on the commercially sensitive redactions, now on the SIF agreement for Nexstar, the jobs guarantee of $2,500 was not redacted. So it stands to reason that it wouldn't be redacted, wouldn't be commercially sensitive under a different SIF agreement. Surely you can tell us if there was a 3,000 person jobs guarantee for Brampton, and that's not commercially sensitive information. So it is concerning to me that you're not committing that there was a jobs guarantee for the Brampton
facility.
facility.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So you're saying that there is...
I'm saying that all the plants were linked and all the contracts are linked. So you will be able to see it when we will be producing.
But if there wasn't a jobs guarantee of 3,000 people at Brampton, which is the whole reason you're here, then how is it that you're tying all of the money to a jobs guarantee that may or may not exist? You should be able to tell us if there is a jobs guarantee for the 3,000 jobs in Brampton.
I think you're falling into the trap of trying to find a problem where there's none.
Well, the problem is that 3,000 people were laid off,
the government
and your government committed millions and billions, in fact, of dollars.
Well, MP Dancho, I don't know whether you want this to be a monologue or you want me to appear. Because the question I'm asking you is very clear. I don't need to be here.
I don't need to be here. I don't need to explain this to you because, well, I didn't read the file. Never read the file, actually, and that's what we ended up learning through this article, was that Minister Joly never read the Stellantis contract that awarded the automaker $15 billion in subsidies. Her deputy yesterday disclosed Joly had defended the agreement following the company's October 14th announcement of 3,000 job cuts. There's no need for her to see the entire contract. Deputy Industry Minister Philip Jennings testified at the Commons Government Operations Committee. I've actually not seen the fully unredacted version myself, he said. Deputy Jennings made the disclosure under questioning from Liberal MP Iqra Khalid. Only about 10 federal employees had read the costly agreement, he said. What is the relationship between the minister and the minister's office and the department in terms of negotiating contracts and then redacting them when there's a request for them to be made public, asked MP Khalid. The answer is it depends on what point in time we're at, replied Deputy Jennings. We have sort of a new minister who is not involved in the negotiations, said Jennings. There is no need for her to see the entire contract. We brief her as needed in terms of some elements of the contract. As I said, She took over a portfolio and a contract that was not her, that was not the one who negotiated it. Of course, your current finance minister, François-Philippe Champagne, was the one who negotiated a contract with no job guarantees. So 3,000 jobs, people who also may watch this show, your job is lost because of liberal incompetence. You had a guy who negotiated a contract that had no job guarantees in it, and that we're seeing. Then Mélanie Joly takes over the portfolio in May, doesn't look over the contract, doesn't look over the details. So when the job cuts do come, she's acting as if she is an expert on the issue when she's just being fed information from her staffers. So she makes herself look like a fool in committee as if she knows what's going on when she doesn't. She hasn't read the contract herself. And that's why she was giving Doncha the runaround on the jobs guarantees, because quite frankly, she didn't know. So we moved our focus now to why are people leaving? Why is caucus dispersing? It's stuff like this, man, where Carney's just trying to quietly just move these people out of the way so that he still saves face. And the media will run cover for him. They will run cover for this caucus. They'll run cover for this party. When 8 people are on their way out because they either disagree with Carney or Carney disagrees with them, or they're making a fool of themselves, not reading contracts. And so I was like, all right, Joly, you're done. We're sending you to Paris. That's where we are at this present time, because they know more stuff like this is coming down the pipe and they're not ready for the truth. And this is where we'll end our show today, baby.
To know that every decision the Prime Minister makes is in the national interest and not in his own financial interest. Yesterday at committee, Brookfield confirmed that every time Brookfield makes money, this Prime Minister makes money, and that 1,900 companies that Brookfield owns are not covered by this Prime Minister's ethics screen.
Wow.
Every time he goes down to the White House, he doesn't come back with a deal for Canadians, but the last time he went, he did get a $80 billion deal for Brookfield. So will the Prime Minister just give Canadians the confidence they deserve and sell his financial interest in Brookfield?
So, very reasonable ask. Hey, can you sell off all your Brookfield assets so that we know that you're in this for Canada and not just for your pocketbook? I mean, could he do that for us, please? That would be nice. But of course, Evan Solomon, the man who brokered art deals and took a cut of it while working at the CBC, is the one who steps up and has something to say about this.
Honorable Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition should stop the conspiracy theories. They should get out more, stop saying no, and find out who's saying yes to Canada. They don't even have to go far. Just this morning, I was in Canada where Nokia said yes to Canada and the Ottawa-Gatineau area, and they broke ground in a $340 million innovation center. They employed 2,600 Canadians. They will employ 340 more. They should do what Nokia does. Build in Canada, buy in Canada, believe in Canada.
Wow, that was such an amazing slogan. Yay. Of course, totally dodges the issue at hand, just like Brookfield dodging their taxes. Fascinating. But anyways, we'll talk later. Have yourselves a good one. I'm out.